All right, this is the last segment for this edition of Chinese Raundry Radio. Uh, Appreciate it if you actually made it to this video. Much obliged. And we're just going to wrap it up with James. Shit, I'm turning to CJ. Don Smith here, and we're wrapping it up. James, would you like to say anything?
Oh, yes, I'd love to.
Okay, seriously, go with whatever you say.
What do you want to know?
Oh, God. Well, it's your segment. This is where you get to talk. I don't ask you questions. You ramble on about whatever you want.
Pretty much, I write about fabulous stuff.
Oh, God.
I'm not going to ramble on about fabulousness because I could, honestly, forever. I joined DeviantArt about 3 years ago, and I put on like 5 pictures, and then I quit, and then I came on like last year as soon as I became a brony again, which I'll get into that in a minute. Um, and I started posting my fan fiction, and I was like, I really don't know what I want to do. I kept trying to think of characters, and my friend,
Oh, God, we're getting into this story.
Anime Ninja 123, Nathan, he wrote stories and stuff, and he had his character Lightning Ray, and I was like, he's a really cool character. I've read some of your stuff; it's amazing. And I was like, you know what? Let's make my character. And we originally made a character called Ethel Sharp, E Sharp, for his story, but he was just way too silly and too fabulous, as I put
To
it.
sum it up, I'm going to go ahead and tell you there was a chapter, well, one shot where Lightning Ring was supposed to get a violin lesson from a homosexual violinist named E Sharp.
Pretty much, he ended up using him because he's too silly. I took the character, and I'm like, well, I can do a lot with him, and I made my own character, Middle C, to pretty much balance out, I guess you could say, the gayness. Um, and it became a big battle of epic stupidness in a story called May the Most Fabulous Win. And that's where I started all my fabulousness, and it eventually took a downhill turn into retardedness that I couldn't even control after a while. And
With great power comes great responsibility.
yeah, well, that wasn't really a great power. It was more fabulous power.
With, with great idiocracy.
Comes great control. I don't know.
Eventually, your story was writing you.
Yeah, my story was writing me. I wasn't writing my story anymore. Kind of like Spider-Man. Um, but like it got to the point to where Zeus James is showing up, who would blow up into a bloody mess
And come back the next chapter.
and come back. Well, eventually got to where he would come back that next line. Um, there was William Francis, a dirty hippie who played guitar, who was magical.
He was a grizzly chewer, too, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he was a grizzly chewer too. There's WWF, which stands for the Whimsical Wizard of Fabulosity, and he talked like a whiz. And and
Rainbows!
Guitar Whoa! And all these characters are just silly, and they eventually made this big series, and I made a trilogy. And after that trilogy, I really haven't made much. Oh, I really haven't finished much. Um, uh,
And may I chime in and just say, if anyone is listening to this and can do um, fancy graphics, but every time you story and he says the word fabulous, you have to make like some kind of aura shine around his character. 'Cause that's
yeah,
just how it's filmed.
it's kind of like the episode of SpongeBob with the imagination.
You know what, Ben? I just came up with a great idea. If me and you
What's
ever,
that?
if me and you ever hang out in person, I know what we're doing.
What's that?
We're gonna play the Fabulous Series drinking game.
Every time it says the word fabulous.
Every time it says the word fabulous, we're gonna take a shot.
Oh God.
We'd be messed up before chapter 3.
You would, because eventually. Let me sum up the first story. I fabuloused out of my fabulous, and I looked fabulous.
After working the fabulous.
After working the fabulous, I realized that my fabulous is fabulous, and well, I had to go to fabulous, and I met my fabulous, and there I found out my fabulous is fabulous, so I killed fabulous, the fabulous. Get ready for a
You do
sequel.
realize that we're gonna end up in the same naked together if that happens.
You will.
I wouldn't mind that, Ben. Just saying.
Actually, neither would I.
Um.
It has to happen.
It has to happen. We're meant for each other, Ben.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
Damn straight.
some people are wondering how a some people have been wondering how I've become a brony, and that was actually kind of simple. I was the biggest brony critic ever. I called Nathan the biggest dumbass for watching it.
Yeah, I got called gay every day by him.
Yeah, and eventually, you know, he was like, man, just watch one episode. I got one episode you'll love, because he knew I was into the fabulous, witty, clever, catchy stuff of like old-timey like song and dance.
Like the way I've put it before was he loves the type of people like Johnny and what's his name from Family Guy, the dudes who'll randomly appear and just damn, play me off, Johnny, and he'll start playing the piano right before he leaves.
The barber shop quartet outfits and stuff.
Yeah.
And he shows me the Flim Flam brothers, and I absolutely fell in love with them. I'm like, you know what? I'll give this show a chance. And I watched the first few episodes, and I fell in love with it. And pretty much the show really inspired me to do a lot. It's inspired my art, my writing, even some stuff I like. And
well, I think almost all of us could probably agree to that. That My Little Pony kind of gave us some kind of like
inspiration, new outlook,
inspirational edge,
It made me look at things differently, because like before I watched My Little Pony, I would like look at shows like Adventure Time. I'd be like, well, this is just stupid. I'm the biggest Adventure Time fan ever now.
I love Adventure Time. Billy, he fought a bear.
Like it's just a great show. I tend to like kids things down, and at first I was sort of a closet brony, and now it's evolved to the point to where I wrote a paper and I turned it into my teacher. But the joys of being a brony, she didn't understand it in the slightest. The only way she could understand it is if she related it to Trekkies and Star Trek, which makes sense.
I love Star Trek.
Because she was sort of relating it to a fandom type sense. And I let multiple teachers read it, and not many of them got it at all.
You know what? Maybe I should give my brony story. You think I should?
Go ahead.
You should, yeah, definitely. I mean, you asked us about our brony stories.
Yeah, may as well go ahead and get this out of the way for the first episode. Okay. Well, I'm gonna start it off a bit more than I told you earlier. Hi, Applejack. But I'm gonna go ahead and give it a bit more. Like before I even knew about ponies or what I'm leading up to, I'll go ahead and tell you. My senior year in high school, which was just last year, back in 2011 to 2012, my locker was right next to this other kid. His name was Jonathan Adams, and I would talk to him every now and then. He wasn't like a guy who I'd usually pal around with in and outside of school. But one day, I'm pulling my art book from my locker, and he pulls an art book from his locker with the leather bind and everything. And I'm just like, oh, dude, you draw? He's like, nah, I just got this for Christmas a while back. They told me to draw on it, but I decided to write in it instead. I was like, can I see some of your art? And he kind of jerked away at me and pulled the book away. He was like, I don't think you would really like my writing. And he walks away, and I'm just like, well, that was weird. And a couple months later, okay, I'm a huge Abridged series fan. I watch all the Abridged series. And I'm sitting at my house a couple months later watching Code Mint by Purple Eyes. He's the best Code Geass abridged you'll see. If you're a fan of Code Geass, I'm going to shamelessly plug it right now and say go watch it. But
it's a great show.
Anyways, I'm sitting there watching it, and Lelouch it's one of those mech animes, and he's sitting in his...
I'll kill you, Lelouch.
He's sitting in his giant robot, and they just defeated the Britannians, and he's like, we did it, we've won, this calls for a celebration. And he presses a button in his robot, and a little purple unicorn appears on the screen. And it's playing some Britney Spears sounding song saying, they hate me, say what you know about me, or something like that. And I'm just sitting there staring at what just happened. I'm like, oh, okay, it's just Purple Eyes. He's being an idiot. He just took some random children's show and put it on there. And I instantly assumed it was My Little Pony. And a couple days later, I'm sitting on Funny Junk. And ponies are appearing everywhere.
They swarm.
And I'm sitting there like, well, what is this all about? And like, I'm looking at the pony memes, and I'm like, oh my god, they've messed this kid's show up. It's so hilarious. And then the word brony surfaces on Funny Junk. And I'm sitting there just reading it, and it says that a brony is a man who watches My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And I laughed my ass off because I could not believe it. I'm sitting up there like I can see a man, like a big buff, bald, shaved head, skinhead dude with a Swazi in the back of his head, chugging a beer and watching My Little Pony going, I freaking love Applejack or Rainbow Dash. Oh my God, they're so cute. And that just made me laugh. And
You did it last week.
yeah. And after that, you know, I was like, there's no way I'm checking this out. That is gay.
Just like how I was.
And I'm sitting there one day. I just had a really bad day. I was going through some stuff with my personal life. And clips are appearing on YouTube of just random pony clips. Like, there's one of Rainbow. The first one I ran into was Rainbow Dash saying, there's no way I can lose. And she goes derp-eyed. And that was the entire clip. I'm like, well, what the hell? So I go through and I'm watching more clips. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch this show. So I watched the first episode. I'm like, that was not that bad. I can see why people like this. It's got incredible animation. I've never seen this before. Well, day after that, I get home from school. And I'm watching it again, and eventually it just became a daily thing. And, well, I run across somebody on my friends list who has Twilight Sparkle as their icon. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta add this person. Because I never really knew who it was. I add them, and apparently they knew me. Because the second I start, because they had just watched me and I never watched them back. And the second I watched them, he's like, hey Nathan, what's up? I'm just like, how do you know my name? And he's like, dude, this is Jonathan. And I was like, oh my God, it's the kid from school. So the next day at school, I look at him, I was like, Jonathan, are you a brony? And he just kind of looks at me. We walk away from the crowd, and he's like, yes, Nathan, I'm a brony. And I just hugged him and was like, thank God I'm not the only one in the school. So eventually we'd start hiding from people, talking about ponies. And there was one day when his art book fell open. And I'm reading it. It has, the first name I lock onto is Twilight Sparkle. I'm just like, oh my God, you were hiding pony fan fiction from me at the time. And he starts laughing at me, and I made fun of him a bit for writing pony fan fiction. And it kind of dragged on like that. And eventually, there was one day where we're sitting at lunch, and I was bragging about how awesome of a free runner I am. And he was like, well, tell you what, Nathan, can you do a double front flip? I was like, you bet your ass I can. And he was like, do a double front flip off this picnic table. And I'm going to make a bet with you. If you can't land it, you have to write a My Little Pony fan fiction about an OC. You have to make it up from top to bottom and use the entire world as your base. And I was like, there's no way I can lose this. So I go to do the front flip. I go through the air twice, and I land on my heels and fall back. And the first thing that hit me was, other than the ground, was, oh my God, I have to write a My Little Pony fan fiction. No, 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 no. So I'm sitting at home, I find Pony Creator, and I'm just like, I'm just going to pull a character out of my ass. I make this badass looking dude. I'm like, okay, let's see here. I like thunderstorms, lightning rain. Okay, we're good. And I wrote a story out, and it got readers, surprisingly enough. And after I finished the story, I was like, finally, the bet's over. Because you would see me when I'd post a chapter, I'd be like, don't gamble, children, or make bets, because this will happen. And it got readers, and people were wanting more, so I just wrote more for Lightning Rain. And I've had several people tell me that they teared up at the end of the last story that I ever wrote about Lightning Rain. And I think you were one of them, weren't you, Ben?
I think I was, yeah.
Yeah, I teared up. It's sort of like losing your friend.
I feel like I killed my own child after. Whoop. Spoilers. Sorry, people who haven't read it. I've already said it. I felt like I killed my own child after I killed him off. It's a good story, though. You should still read it, even though he dies.
Yeah, it's sort of like, reading Beowulf. You know the guy's gonna die.
It's like watching the ending of a game on YouTube, and you're like, I'm still going to play it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that to Portal 2.
Oh, yeah. But that's my brony story.
Well, pretty much, I think ponies has helped.
Yeah, ponies has really helped my outlook on a lot of things. Like, back in the day, I was like, oh, he likes dudes, he's a faggot. And now I'm just like, so what? That's normal. People are like that.
Well, no, I called one kid out the other day because, they were, talking about music. And, I was, oh, man, I bet, he's weird. He listens to Elton John. I just look at him like, what's wrong with Elton John? He goes,
I suppose the love and tolerate meme really had a lot to do with it, because, you know, when you first become a brony, you're like, oh my god, I gotta commit to this community now, and you start wanting to do the things other than Rule 34. There are some people who are like, I have to commit to Rule 34 now. I'm like, okay, it's your life, bro, whatever. But if you want to commit yourself to Rule 34 and it makes you happy, I say by hellfire, you do it.
love and tolerate.
Love and tolerate the shit out of those clot fictions.
That's gonna be its own topic. So
Yeah, we'll have that in another show. But
Hopefully I'll...
the love and tolerate thing really helps me out with like a lot of stuff, and I think I became a more understanding person after I watched the show.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, same here.
I really don't know other than how to say this, but Lauren Faust is just a beautiful goddess.
I mean, like, really, I was really a judgmental person.
Oh yeah.
Before I watched the show, I'm like, oh yeah, you're kind of weird. You know, but now I sort of just see myself...
It's sad to say that, you know, she basically had creative control over, like, basically the first season, or arguably the first couple of episodes, and then after that, it just became the producers, you know, like,
Yeah.
they pretty much did what they wanted to do.
And they did a great job.
They did.
No, but they did an excellent job. I mean, you really couldn't ask a better production crew to do, to just take it to where you wanted it to be, you know?
Yeah.
They did excellent.
Well, I mean, they've really... the biggest thing I think that's really gotten fans is the fact that they reference so much stuff, such as John D. Lancey and Discord.
And the Big Wazowski, I think, is how it's pronounced.
The Big
like
Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski is an adult movie that I do not suggest for children.
About a cameo.
About these dudes bowling, and then in an episode you see the Cutie Mark Crusaders in a bowling alley. And if you look closely enough, there is the Big Lebowski and his gang chilling
as ponies.
And I'm just like, oh my god, that's so great.
Well, even in one of the later episodes of season 2, Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy make a reference to I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Whenever they're in a cherry farm, they're trying to rearrange. They're trying to rearrange the cherries, and they just take it as the scene from I Love Lucy.
Hey, Ben, that just gave me an idea.
What's that?
I'll be Lucy if you'll be Ricky Ricardo.
Oh, Nathan, I'm home.
Ay, caramba, Nathan. Oh, God, that wasn't racist, Ben. I love you.
No, not at all.
I think Ben wants to be Ricky Ricardo.
Ben, would you seriously be my Ricky Ricardo?
I would love to. I would love that. Yeah, I'd be honored.
Oh my god, totally off subject, but back to the references.
Back to the references. It's just...
Oh god.
It really helps. I got this horrible image of Ben walking into this house with these suspenders. Like, you up the stairs, like...
With his bongos.
With his bongos, and you upstairs, nothing but the apron on.
Oh god.
Which is a different story, but I'm not going to get into that.
You should know my story.
Please say that again. We were laughing too hard. Please, just go one more time. Say that again.
What's that?
Say that one more time, please.
You don't know my life. You don't know my story.
I grew up in the barrios. What you gonna do?
I'm sorry, but that just sounds so much like one of my ex-girlfriends.
Oh god. Oh god.
Yeah.
We won't get into that.
Different story.
Oh god. But back to the references, and we'll try to stay there this time.
Okay, please, let's try.
Another reference that they've done was like the ending of the season 2 opener episodes. The
They-
big Star Wars ending.
Yeah, it's like they've even made a meme: beat a Star Trek villain, get a Star Wars ending.
Yeah, and I mean, even in the newest episode, did you watch the new episode yet, Ben?
Damn straight.
Oh, okay, good. Then this won't spoil it for you. Where there's like all these Pinkie Pies. She's cloned herself. And she's just, like, one of the clones looks around at her. She goes, I could make my face look real silly like this. And she turns around and she's like a Generation 1 pony. I fell off the couch. I was laughing so hard.
We had to pause the
That's what I was
episode.
talking about. I was like, because I remember, because I'm only, my sister is only 3 years younger than I am, so I remember seeing all the Generation 1 ponies, so I was like, oh my god, that hit a...
That was the biggest Easter egg.
Oh my god.
I think only true fans would actually get that
Yeah.
reference.
It was.
Yeah, it was just freaking
Just great.
crazy. I actually even showed her that episode yesterday, and she was like, oh my god, she started shaking her head. I was like, you remember all those damn toys and all the brushy things? Yeah.
She was like, now you have them.
Yeah. Now that's all my stuff.
You got your own collection?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some nights where I just like to curl up by the fire with Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, and I'll just sit there in my chair and I'll put the book down every now and then just to take my little brush and brush Rainbow Dash's mane.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh god, that actually reminds me. I was actually working on the floor at my store, and there was a My Little toy of Lyra Heartstrings, or however you pronounce her name.
Yeah.
Because you and I are Irish, so we know how to pronounce Lyra, like a lyre.
Some people put Lyra, some people put Lyra. I'm either way, really.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but
Yeah, go on.
point being is, it came with a little DVD of Lesson Zero, that episode. I was like, oh my god, I gotta buy that, so it was just freaking crazy.
I've had moments like that when I worked back at the Dollar General. When we were first moving, because we had to change buildings, which was a hassle, but I'm loading the coloring book section. And I'm going through the boxes, and I'm not even paying attention to what I put on the shelf. I got my iPod in, and then I open my eyes, and there's Princess Celestia and Applejack staring me in the eyes, and I'm like, we sell these? And one of my coworkers, he's about a year older than me. One of my old coworkers, he's just about a year older than me, and he's really internet savvy. Like, most of the jokes I cracked, he got. And then he was like, oh, you're putting pony coloring books on the shelf, man. That's real manly of you. I was like, you're damn straight it's manly of me. And I flipped it open, I was right to Rainbow Dash. I was like, you see that? That's a sexy piece of ass. But he just laughed at me and walked off. And there's one day where me and him were working in the soda aisle, which was the greatest aisle because it took about 30 minutes, and by the time you get done, you turn around and it's all messed up again because people love their damn soda. But anyways, we're refacing and stocking it, and we're talking about, like, I forget how it was brought up, but ponies was brought up, and he was like, dude, I know too much about ponies. It's not even healthy. And I was like, well, what do you mean, man? He was like, just this internet garbage. I was like, what do you mean garbage? Because, deep down I was sitting there, I was like, oh, hell no. But on the outside, I was just like, oh, yeah, man, And he was like, and then I just kind of looked at him and smiled. I was like, dude, are you a brony? And he just, nope. I'm never watching that show, and I don't plan to. And as he was walking away, I just go, hey, friendship is magic, dude. Give it a chance. And the next day, he comes back. He's like, I watched your little show, and I'm addicted now. I hate you. I was like, ha ha.
Yeah.
And we had these generic ponies at the dollar store, too, because, Dollar General is going to have this generic-ass shit.
Don't even start about that, but Magic Mark had, like, I forget what it was called. It was clearly ripped off My Little Ponies.
Yeah.
But it was called something completely different.
Well, we sold these things called Fantasy Fillies.
I think that's what they were, Fantasy Fillies.
Yeah, and I'm looking at them because they're like these, they're not even animated type little toys, They look like actual horses, but they still have like the pony mane that you can brush and everything. But what had me cracking up was you could tell that it was a spin-off of Princess Celestia. Because it was like this bright, sparkly pink color, but it was an alicorn. And her cutie mark was a setting sun.
Oh, God.
And I was sitting there like, that is the most generic-ass thing I have ever seen.
Because we have Dollar Generals in Tucson, Arizona, but so I know kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I think that actually did good for the first edition of this.
Yeah, I think we're ranting on there a bit at the end, but I think that's good.
I like listening to podcasts where people rant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole fun. You can just
you really get a feel for who they are.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up, and whenever me and Ben decide to do our Olive Lucy version of the royal wedding, we'll send out wedding invitations.
You just wanna, if you wanna find any of our stuff, it's at DeviantArt. You have Ibanez. What's the name?
I'll just post the links at the
post
bottom.
the links. All right, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Ibanez is Ben, and then I'll post Elite Beat Odin, who is James, my co-host.
Yes.
I will post mine, which is Anime Ninja. I'm Nathan, by the way, if you haven't caught on to that yet. And I will post the drunk guy who stumbled in and out of here, Alex, who is Dex Revolution.
No, Scott.
They're in the bottom. He doesn't have a Skype. Oh, wait. He's actually Skyped. I will put that one on there instead. He has 2 different DAs. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you listen to this all the way through, God bless you.
You're a dumbass.
And I thank you for your time. And,
Consider me.
you know, I want to do this like the radio station that we do. Could we say goodnight, everybody, like they do at the radio station? Ben, you're in on this too? Okay, just say goodnight, everybody. 3, 2, 1.
Good
night, everybody. God, that was distorted as hell.